Hello, everybody, and welcome. I do hope you can hear me. I think you probably can. I think I fixed the microphone this afternoon. There's a terrible delay on my end, so I hope there isn't on yours. If there is, just don't look at my mouth, and you'll be fine. Okay, so it is August the 5th, 2025, and today we're going to talk about travel photography, just because I didn't do any, but I thought about it a lot while I was over in the UK, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight: how to take decent pictures on your holidays without a camera, without a real camera, anyway. But first, I am back from Scotland and England. Thank goodness. It was one of the most non-relaxing holidays I've had in my lifetime. I don't know why, just a lot of rushing around, but it's good to be back. And it was wonderful to see my family. Great to spend a few days with them. I'm going to show you some pictures a little bit later, and you'll see what I was getting up to while I was gone. I spent 3 days in London and went down to my old stomping grounds where I'm originally from, down in Sussex, for a day, and that was nice. It was really nice. Laura came with me, and we had a good time. It was good to see all the old places. Anyway, I wrote a short piece about this experience and was going to post it on my blog today, and decided not to because it just sounded like I was complaining. Which I suppose I was. I thought it was quite funny, but I'm not sure anybody else would. So I'll read it again in the morning, and if I change my mind, I'll post it. But otherwise, yeah, you'll just have to assume that the flight was horrible, and we'll go from there. Okay, so there's a lot going on this week, a lot. I am making the results video for last month's competition, the one that ended while I was gone. And that's going to be with Angie Wallace, who, by the way, I didn't get to see when I was over. Even though I went right through her town, the train didn't stop. Well, it didn't stop for long enough for me to go see her, which was a real shame. But next time, I'll make sure I plan that a little better. But anyway, Angie's going to come on tomorrow, and we're going to record the results video from the reptiles and amphibians contest. I'm really looking forward to doing that. I'll get the video out as soon as I can, and we'll go from there. The August competition is now underway. I have yet to post the actual theme, but I'm going to tell you about it now. You maybe saw it on the title slides. It's microhabitats. So what that means is you need to take a picture of a microhabitat. You can make it or you can find it. You can come across one in the woods, a patch of moss, a piece of tree bark, whatever you like. But what you need to do is use your imagination and use your knowledge of your subject to see if you can create a story with this. You're not just going to be showing the microhabitat, but maybe what dwells in the microhabitat. Try to come up with a complete picture based on that one word, microhabitat. If you need more information, we'll talk about it again later in the week, but I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be difficult. This is going to be a much harder competition than they have been lately. So microhabitat. I'll write a piece. I've actually written a little piece that I'll put on the competition page. You can read that if you need more details. All right, Thursday is a continuation of what we're doing today, but it's a much deeper dive into the whole idea of taking good pictures. We're going to move on from just the advice on how to take pictures with a cell phone or a compact camera, and we're going to talk about how to actually start seeing your world in a slightly different way so that you can take pictures that are more powerful, more emotive. And it's going to be an interesting discussion. There's some stuff there that you might not have heard lately. Friday, we've got something new and very exciting. For those of you who are into birefringent crystal photography, like I am, and like many of you are, I know, we have a brand new program on Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Harold Hall and myself will be hosting or co-hosting a new program that's called Crystal Art. It might change, but for now it's called Crystal Art. It's going to be for anybody who's interested in making and photographing birefringent crystals, the stuff that I'm doing all the time here. If you have any interest in it at all, please come Friday, because we're going to do things a little differently. On Friday, I'm going to introduce everybody, and we're going to talk about what we want this program to be. So if you are interested in it, please come Friday so that you can give us input on what you want to see, what you want to do, whether you want interviews or demonstrations, or you want me to set my hair on fire, whatever it is that you want to do. Come Friday and let me know, and we will get it organized for you. So Friday shouldn't be a very taxing meeting, and it won't be very long, but it's at 2 o'clock. The invitation is going to be in my blog post, which will come out tomorrow, if I can think of anything to write. But I'll put that and the other links in there. So that's it. Crystal Art, 2 o'clock on Friday with Harold Hall and myself. It's going to be fun. All right, let me see. That was everything, right? Nope. Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning, After Stack. Bud Parrott and I are going to be doing After Stack number 28. Can you believe we've been doing After Stack for over a year? I can't, but 28 every other week comes out to more than a year. So that's absolutely fantastic. I'm amazed that it's been that long. But this week we're talking about color spaces. It's going to be a review, kind of, but we're going to be talking not just about the usual stuff, the RGB stuff, but we're going to be getting into lab color a little bit and doing some higher power stuff. If you have photographs that could use a little help, especially with the color, bring them, because we will use them. That's how we do this thing. We look at one another's photographs and talk about how to make them better. Okay, that is everything, isn't it? Hang on, I've got another page here. Next weekend, Presume on Saturday, Tangent to follow. So we'll be getting caught up on everything. We're going to have a lot to talk about and a lot to catch up on next weekend. So Presume on Saturday, followed by Tangent. Any ideas or requests for topics for the live streams, or for that matter, topics for videos, any other content that you want to see, now's a good time to let me know. I'm planning the rest of the year right now, and it will be good to have any thoughts that you have. Okay, so let's talk about vacation snapshots. I decided this time, going back to the UK, that I was not going to take a camera. And that is a very unusual decision for me to take. But the last 2 times I've been on an aeroplane, I have usually I carry a bag and a little backpack, and sometimes a briefcase, but they're all small and they all fit in the cubby holes they have for them. But the last 2 times I've flown, they have taken one of my bags, vindictively I thought, and put a tag on it, and then they put it in the hold. And I've watched them put the bags in the hold at the end of this process. They stand underneath the plane and they throw them up into a bin underneath the plane. And I have nightmares about that. I have nightmares about my camera being in that bag that gets consigned to the bin up there. And I'm not sure that you can argue about it with them. I think they might have the marshals arrest you or something if you refuse, or they might just throw you off the plane. Either way, it sounded too complicated and too worrying. So I decided I was going to leave my cameras at home and take either my telephone, which has a camera built in, as you know. Terrible camera in my opinion, but that's probably because I don't know how to use it. Or I was going to take something like one of these. I don't know where they all came from. They all work and they're all fairly decent. In the end, I didn't take any of these, especially not the 1 megapixel Kodak. I think that was the first one I ever bought. But anyway, these are an option that you may well decide to take. There's still not much size difference between them and the cell phone, and I needed a phone anyway. So I just decided I was going to take my phone. Right, So that was where it all started. And I don't particularly like taking pictures with the phone, even though I do it all the time. I do it for almost every video that I make. I'm always using it to shoot little clips of footage for this, that, or the other, to put on the program. But certainly to actually take photographs with it on a trip, it doesn't inspire me very much. And certainly to do anything close up, I just hate it. I really do. So I was thinking as I was flying over there how I was going to manage this, how I was going to use this phone and just this phone to take some decent pictures that I could bring back and share with you, or just keep for myself. And it made me think that there are quite a few things you need to think about if you're going to do that. And what I want to talk to you about today is what those things are and how you can maximize the chances of coming back with a cell phone full of fairly decent pictures. Now, you would think that what I would then do would be show you all the decent pictures I took with my phone. I'm going to show you a few that I thought were okay, but it's really more to demonstrate the ideas than it is to give you examples of good photography, because I am not a cell phone photographer. I honestly, I have a friend, Mike Canfor, a lot of you know him. I think he's one of the best cell phone photographers I know. He's a regular photographer too, but he knows how to use the cell phone. I don't. I ought to one day learn, I suppose, but when I always have a camera in my hand, there's not much reason for it. And I didn't take the time to learn before I went, but I did take some pictures, and I will be showing them to you. So that's what I want to talk about, is how do you take this device that gives you very limited range, the very limited what you can do with it. Now, and I know that those of you who are sophisticates in this will point out that no, you've got all kinds of controls that you can use. You can even change lenses. I have no idea how you change the lenses, but yeah, there's probably a way you can do that. I don't know. I consider these then to be very limited compared to a camera. And what was I going to do to take pictures? So the first thing I had to do was think about what were my subjects going to be? What did I want to take pictures of? Well, people, interesting places and buildings, because I was going to go to London, and Laura had never been, so we were going to be doing some sightseeing, and there would be some places I wanted to photograph at scale, but lots of people photographs as well. So how was I going to do that? What could I do to make otherwise boring and static phone pictures look decent, as if a photographer had taken them? And it's quite a challenge. Less gear, but more vision. That's the secret, I think, is you're doing this with very limited equipment. Therefore, you have to make up for it by using more of your mind. And that's, I think, the secret to travel photography with minimal, negligible equipment. Let me explain what I mean. The point I'm going to make over and over again is that good photographs come from your experience and your skill and your patience. They don't really come from your camera. A bad camera like this can certainly make it more challenging to take a good picture, but that's not where the good pictures come from. The good pictures come from the good ideas. So how are we going to do this? And let's start by talking about what equipment you need to take. If you're planning on doing just a cell phone holiday, and presumably you are interested in macro photography, hence your presence at the Macro Talk podcast thing. If that is one of your interests, there are a couple of other pieces of equipment I'd recommend you take. Something like this. A light, an LED rechargeable lithium powered this is a small rig, very powerful light. It's excellent if you're going to do any close-up stuff. And the other piece is one of the lenses that I have reviewed. I've reviewed many of them. The AWPhotography was probably my favorite, and it's a big old lens. I couldn't find it this afternoon. I don't know what I've done with it, but it clips on the back of the phone, goes right over the close-up lens, and it makes a big difference. Now, I did not take it with me this time because I thought about it on the plane, not before I got on the plane. But they are the two things that I would urge you to take if you have any interest at all in wandering around outside while you're on holiday. You'll need to think about that in advance. So some kind of a magnifying glass, some kind of a light. I also have an AWPhotography illuminated magnifier that clips onto the phone, and it has both a light and the magnifier, but I can't find that one either. I may have given it to someone, but anyhow, that would be a good thing to take. So that's all you need. A word of caution: if you're going to be relying on your phone and you're going to be out especially in busy places like London, have some way of attaching the phone to your person. Don't rely on having it in your hand and setting it down, because it will vanish in an instant. It's a good idea to have a strap to it. If you have a case around it that you can put a little thing on around your wrist, much less likely to have it disappear. But anyway, let's talk about the mindset and the strategy that go into good pictures on no equipment. One thing that you can do is take advantage of the disadvantage of not having the equipment you're used to. For example, interchangeable lenses. Let's say for just a minute that the phone doesn't have 3 lenses, which in my case it might as well not have 3, but maybe you know how to change them. But a camera like this only has 1 lens. So let's say you don't have the ability to change lenses. This is an opportunity to get very creative. If you can't change the lenses, you have to learn how to tell the story with the lens that you've got. And that can be really challenging, but I think it's where a lot of the satisfaction comes with travel photography. It forces you to do things you normally wouldn't think about. It forces you to position yourself and your camera in ways that wouldn't cross your mind if you were able to switch the lens out. And that's a great way to force you to think about what you're trying to do, what you're trying to show, the story you're trying to tell. So another thing that is really important if you're going to be doing a holiday with just a cell phone is let go of the whole concept of being technically perfect. As a macro photographer, I know that every one of you struggles at some time or another with this need to have the best possible image quality in your photographs that you can muster. And I get that. I understand it. That's why I do what I do. You cannot do that if you're out wandering around in a foreign country with a cell phone. You're just going to have to accept the fact that it is not your good camera, and it is not going to take pictures of the same resolution, and you have to work around it. So let go of the idea of perfection. Shoot less, but see more. That's really, really important. I know that we go out with a 450 terabyte card in our camera and we shoot 10,000 pictures. I am absolutely not looking at you when I say that, Klaus, though your name did pop through my head when I said that. Certainly, that is a thing that macro photographers do. We go out and we take a lot of pictures. If you are trying to be creative with something like a cell phone, lose that idea as well. Don't take as many pictures, but instead look at more scenes. Figure out what you really want to photograph, and then invest the extra time that when you're not clicking the shutter to actually set up the shot that you want. And this is really important. Mentally pre-framing your images. Now, one of the examples I'm going to show you, I guess I could show that to you right now. Laura and I went on this ginormous Ferris wheel in the heart of London. It's called the Eye. Doesn't look at all like an eye to me, but it is a gigantic thing. It's terrifying if you don't like heights. I wouldn't recommend it. It's pretty terrifying even if you do like heights because of the size of the thing. But this thing is constantly in motion. You get on a pod at the bottom of it. I'm going to try to find you a picture of it. You get on in this metal and glass pod that then goes around a Ferris wheel type assembly that's, I don't know how big it is, hundreds of feet in the air, but it's constantly moving, and it makes framing a photograph quite difficult, because just as you're thinking that you know what you want to photograph, the thing's moved another 10 feet up in the air or sideways. So knowing how to anticipate the time that you are going to have to set up a shot is an important part of this. I found it really quite challenging to be on this eye thing, which I don't know where I put my... Oh, here it is. Here's the picture of it. One of the pictures that I took is this one I'm getting ready to show you. And I wanted to show the view from the top of this thing, but I also wanted to show that I was on this contraption, so that when anybody looked at the photograph, they'd say, oh my goodness, he's on a ginormous Ferris wheel. So let me show you what that looked like when I finally decided on the shot I wanted to use. It was this. Now, there are a lot of different ways you could have set up this photograph, and I took quite a few different ones, but this was when we were above the pods below us, and there are about 40 something of these big things, and they hold about 20 people a piece, something like that. But I wanted to get this bridge. I think it's Waterloo Bridge or one of those. It's a train bridge, but I wanted to get this in the image with this car, and that's one example of where I would have taken hundreds of pictures on this thing, but instead I planned the pictures that I was going to take and took about 10 of them. I was fairly happy with most of them. Let me see if I've got any of the other ones here handy. Let me see. I think I took a couple more. Yes, up at the top of the thing, you got a really uncommonly good view of the Houses of Parliament and Big Ben. And you'll notice that this is awfully washed out. Well, this is because these buildings are a couple of miles away from where you are up at the top of this eye. And yeah, this is a very heavily cropped image. But it did get everything I wanted in it. And yeah, you probably think the sky looks fairly nice too, but that is not the sky that was there that day, which was just grey and flat. So I added a few clouds to it, but yeah. And this is what I mean, by the way, by saying that do what I say, not what I actually did, because these are not very good pictures. The idea being that long before I got to the top of this Ferris wheel, I knew that was one of the scenes that I was going to try to get. I love this building. I think it's amazing. And as you get a little bit higher, you can see Westminster behind it, and you can see a lot from up at the top of that thing. Anyway, know your device, whether you're taking a Nikon Coolpix or your cell phone. Know what it can do. Know what the auto exposure, auto focus lock means. You know, the thing where you touch the screen and a square comes up. Know what that does. Understand how pressing that button will lock in the exposure so that you can concentrate on framing the photograph and not worrying about what the camera does. Do all that before you go. If your camera has an exposure slider, learn how to use it. Learn how to get enough light into the camera. Learn how to use burst mode where the buttons are to turn these things on. If your camera has a macro mode, if you have one of these little bitty cameras that allows you to do close-ups, figure out how you can get to that part of the menu without having to interrupt your workflow. And the time to do that is with the manual, either before you leave or while you're on the plane. You're going to have lots and lots of time while you're sitting in your comfortable chair staring at the food like substance they just put down in front of you and trying to decide whether or not you should eat it. During that pause, you could have studied your camera. So think about it. And if your camera has an ultra wide lens, a fisheye type lens, or if you're taking a screw-on type fisheye lens, understand how that works. Know what the frame size is going to be. Know what kind of image it gives you. Know how distorted it is, so that you can plan your shots ahead. And a lot of these cameras also have night mode. I think my cell phone does. I'm not exactly sure what it does. Presumably it's an anti-noise thing. But yeah, if your phone has night mode, learn what it is and how you use it. I did not take any pictures at night. Not on this trip, but I did on my last one, and I can maybe show you some of those. If you're taking a point and shoot camera, it'll probably have zoom and macro, and it'll have other program modes built into it. Now, I am not going to attempt to tell you how to use one of these things. Read the manual. I think they're all different. I've got manuals for all of these and don't really know how to use any of them, but this particular one actually takes really nice pictures. This is my favorite of them. I would demonstrate it, but yeah, I've forgotten how to turn it on. Yep. Or it's dead. The battery's dead. Okay, so let's talk for a bit about subject matter and how you're going to compose your shots. What are you going to shoot? How are you going to shoot it? The thing about having a small portable camera like this that you can move around with and not be in everybody's way, not have a lot of equipment to drag around, you can be very mobile. And it is a wonderful opportunity for you to get into places that you normally wouldn't think of if you had a whole bunch of camera equipment with you. By that I mean changing your body position, climbing up on top of a wall. Don't do that if you got a bad knee or something. You might not be able to get down, but safely. You can lie down on the ground with your cell phone. Again, don't do that in London, but yeah, in other places you can do things with just a tiny camera that you can't do with all that equipment. So look for opportunities to tell stories or to capture images that are interesting to you that would be difficult to do with a camera. Take advantage of the fact that you don't have your camera. Examples would be shop signs. I did not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Photos app here and actually just drag a few of these photographs over, because I've got loads of these and I didn't download them all. But shop signs I love taking pictures of shop signs or all kinds of businesses, and I had a couple of those I can show you. Well, I'll find it in a minute. But yeah, shop signs or pub signs are very interesting, and they do tell a story about where you've been. And cobblestones, the surfacing of side streets and roads and alleys. I'll show you one of these actually, if I can get it to open. Yeah, stuff like that. That's not a very good one. I had a better one than that. Yeah, just street scenes. This is from Iceland last year. You can. That's I think the one I meant to show you. These bike things are everywhere, and I thought they were quite interesting. And you can't see them because I'm not showing you, which is probably a good thing. There we go. Let me see if I can make that a little bigger. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. There was somebody peering out that window, presumably thinking I was going to steal their lovely toothpaste-colored motorcycle, but I didn't. Let me see. The other one I was going to show you was similar. Yeah, kind of interesting. Maybe not, but it's a story. There's a story there. Luggage, hands, people that are cooking street food. Nobody cooks street food in Iceland, by the way. It's so incredibly cold there, they would lose their fingers to frostbite. So you wouldn't photograph any hands in Iceland, but you could photograph big furry boots and these scooters. Shadows are interesting to photograph. When you have something like one of these miniature cameras, you can really move around and see interesting shadows. I find much more readily than I can if I'm using a camera, where my movement is a bit more limited. Patterns and textures, whether it's walls or tiles or fabrics or tapestries hanging on walls, even foliage, anything that grabs your interest, anything that could put together a story. I'm going to give you some ideas of what to do with your photographs from your holidays when we get through with this part, and part of that will be to add context to the story you're telling. And one of the ways that you add context is with close-up detail of what the surfaces look like, what textures look like, what the walls of the buildings, what the tiles on the floor, and that's all very cool to include. Whenever you can, and be careful with this, but whenever you can, try to get people interacting with one another. It tells a tremendous amount about where you are and what you're doing. Whether it's people exchanging money for food at a stall, or shaking hands, or slapping a person's back, whatever it is, it adds a great deal of richness and texture to the story that you're telling. So pay attention to what people are doing with one another, how they're talking or not talking in the case of New York or London, where they just kind of walk past you. That tells a story too, and you can capture that if you're thoughtful. Be careful sticking your phone or even your miniature camera in somebody's face. People don't react to that as well as you might think. Well, they do react as badly as you probably think they would. Not a good idea. Don't be afraid to photograph people, by the way, if they're turned away from you. That too can be powerful. The person does not have to be posing or looking at the camera for you to get an engaging photograph. One of my favorite photographs that I took a couple of years ago was of two brothers. I think they were brothers, two young kids who were sitting on a wall talking, and they weren't looking at me. They weren't paying any attention to me, and I had a 200mm lens on, but they were both wearing red tennis shoes, and they had their feet dangling down on the wall, and they were swinging their legs back and forth, and at one moment they both stopped at the same time, and you had these four red tennis shoes against a white wall. It looked absolutely amazing. The picture was one of my favorites, and that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That kind of subtle interaction that you can read a lot into when you look at the photograph. So take pictures of people, even if it doesn't include their face or when they're not looking at you. But if you are going to shoot somebody in the face, that did not come out right. If you are going to take a picture of somebody's face, get permission. It's probably the safest way to go. You don't need to. Legally you're not required to, but yeah, it's probably a good idea. Photograph the mood and the weather, the sky, the overall vibe of a place, because it will change the way that you look at the other photographs. Don't just ignore the fact that the weather's bad and try to get the best photographs you can. embrace the bad weather and photograph people in their galoshes or their ponchos or just dripping wet walking into the coffee shop. Take advantage of all of that. It's all rich and it's all meaningful and it all fits into the story. I love adding that kind of thing to a story I'm telling in pictures. The pictures I took in Iceland have a good example of that. We went to visit a waterfall where the water falls off the edge of a cliff, where the wind is howling so fiercely and it is so cold that the water freezes on the way down and then comes back up again. So the water never gets down to the bottom. It just comes up in a shower of ice. Yeah, that was worth a photograph, because that would tell you never, ever, ever to go there if you have the option. So composition techniques that are particularly high yield when you don't have much by way of equipment are the usual things of using the rule of thirds, easy to do, using leading lines, diagonals, very easy to see with the nice big bright picture we have on the phone. And one of my favorites is framing a photograph using a window. Now, I'm going to give you an example of that because that's one of the things I did on this trip. I've just got to find it. Bear with me. Using a window that was already there. I'm going to show you two pictures, actually. The first is the little restaurant that we were having dinner in. This was my brothers and I. It's very nice, and I love the lights and the beautiful blue sky and these government buildings, I think, over on the other side of the railway station. It just looked nice. But I instead moved closer and used that window frame to frame a second shot that I much preferred. Let me see if I can get to that one. I don't know how you do that. Let me try this. So that was the photograph that I took next, where I've just excluded everything else from the picture except the window frame itself, and that becomes the frame of the picture. And I think it's a nice picture. It tells you a lot about both the restaurant you're in, which is very tidy and very well appointed, but also the buildings and the layout of the city. So very, very fond of that. Let me see if there was anything else of that type. Yeah, lots and lots of buildings. When you are given an opportunity to take a photograph through an arch or through a building, that's the kind of thing that you can do quickly and easily with a small camera that would often involve tripods and other things if you were to try to do it with your main gear. I will show you another one real quick because I honestly did not realize I'd done this. But I just was looking at the next photograph in that stack, and I noticed this, that I had actually photographed the next two statues in line. This is in Edinburgh, through the arch of this monument. Hideous monument, though, isn't it, really? But Alistair, I wasn't meaning that personally, but there you go. So that is a great way to add interest to a photograph. I wonder if I've done that accidentally on any others. Well, apparently so, yes. Just moving a foot or so to the right, I got the other thing out of the picture. I like that. That's quite clever. You have to deal with all kinds of distortion when you're using these little lenses, little cameras from close up. But I'll show you a picture in a minute of the Shard, which is a building in London over by Borough Market on the south side of the Thames. This is the tallest building in Europe. I think it's the tallest building. It's certainly the sharpest building in Europe. It's made of glass and metal, and it just is very narrow, very skinny, very pointy. And when they first built it, I should show you a picture of it. Let me see if I can find it. When they first built it, there was a problem with it was melting cars on the other side of London. The light was getting concentrated off its shiny windows, and it was at certain times in the afternoon it was setting fire to cars that were parked on the street miles away. Uh, Pretty scary stuff, and it's not a very attractive building. But let me show it to you because it was really difficult to photograph. Let me see if I can find it. So you're probably starting to get the idea that the here's the shard. You get the idea that the fun of doing this is you get to break a lot of rules, and this is one example of how I had to break a rule here just to get just to get the building in the picture, because there was literally no way I could hold my phone that I could take a picture that also included the top of the shard. Now this looks like a very unimpressive, nondescript building down at this level. But when you get a few miles away from this thing towers above the rest of the city by hundreds of feet. It's a very, very impressive building to stand close to. Not as impressive as the Borough Market, which is right underneath it, which has some of the best food in the universe. But that's neither here nor there. Let me see if there's any other pictures. You may have noticed one of the images also took advantage of some natural odd shapes. I came across this tunnel under one of the railway stations that was the most beautiful thing. It had these perspex panels, and they were constantly changing colors. And the title page for this live stream actually was the same wall after it turned green or blue. But I absolutely loved this, and there were several different ways that I was able to photograph it that very much changed the look of it. Let me see if I can find one of the... Well, this is the title slide. It's the exact same wall, just taken from a different perspective and with some letters put on it, of course. That wasn't real. That I did that after the fact. But yeah, it's very engaging, very geometric, and I think that that's something that you can do better with a camera, a cell phone camera, or one of these compact cameras. You can certainly experiment, I think, more freely than you can when you're having to set up shots with all the big fancy equipment. Let me see if there was any other... I love perspective things, so I took several pictures of the underground just to get the feel of distance and height. It was fun to do. The train that took us from Edinburgh to London and back, if I can get the picture to open. Well, it's not going to. How strange. Ah, there it is. Look at that. It's probably not quite as fancy as those Japanese bullet trains, but it's a very, very nice train. Goes very fast, and yeah, took some good pictures of it. I rather like it. There's a chap in there who's having his picture taken, doesn't even know it. The one thing I'm not going to do is show you any of the close-up pictures that I tried to take, because they're so bad. Because I forgot to take my lens with me, my magnifying lens. So this is what the phone itself did, and I'm just unimpressed, I'm afraid. Let me see what other pictures I have that I can... Would you like to see where I grew up? The house I grew up in? That's it. It's quite nice, really, all things considered. Taking pictures of other people's houses is another risky business in the UK. You've got to be careful. I'm going to show you. This is going to turn into... these are my brothers. Well, not all of them. One of them's me. Hang on. I disappeared them all. Yeah, we were out on the golf course, and it was so nice to be with my brothers. They're all Very, very fine guys. This is the extremely old one who had a birthday last week or last month. Yeah, it was wonderful to be with them. Great guys, a lot of fun, and terrible golfers. We're all terrible golfers together. Let me see. There's another couple of pictures that I will show you, and then I will finish up here. Let me see. I will show you one picture of the golf course in case anybody plays golf. The hole that we were standing on there was the first shot you hit on a hole off the tee has to fly over here to somewhere up here. Of course, none of the four of us were able to whack a ball that far over there, so they all went down in here. There must be a trillion of them, but what a gorgeous place. It's Eyemouth in Scotland on the east coast. Okay, we've got a few minutes left, so let me get back to talking about what we're here for and finish up my thoughts here. Whenever you're out and about with the phone, use things like silhouettes for creative effect. I also have some silhouette pictures that I'm not going to dig out because they weren't very good, but it's a great thing to try. My brother has a field of, well, not a field, he has a little patch of poppies that he grows in his back garden. And they're lovely shape to these things, the seed pods. And I photographed them in silhouette, and they looked okay, but the picture didn't show up that well. Silhouettes, just shooting dark subjects in front of light skies, can give you a very interesting effect. Use reflections. Reflections in glass, reflections on that shiny underground color thing that I showed you. Reflections in glass or in windows, in anything that you can use creatively, can be very, very effective. I took some pictures at Piccadilly Circus, one of those places, and used some reflections in shop windows to get some pretty decent pictures. Not good enough to show, but yeah, it's a great way to get creative. Just think of light and shadow as another creative tool in your toolbox. Look for light that is coming at an odd angle. Early morning light, late evening light, or any light that's bouncing off that shard just don't stand directly in its way because you'll probably ignite. But backlighting is something that's fairly easy to do, especially if you're in a big city where there are lights everywhere. Backlighting becomes just a matter of using your feet to walk around your subject and find where the lighting's most interesting. Again, something you may get away with a cell phone, but you're probably not going to get away with a massive pile of equipment. So there are a few quick tips that I'm going to give you for using iPhone cameras or cell phone cameras and compact cameras. This won't take but a minute. Try not to use the digital zoom on these cameras. You know what I mean by that. The digital zoom is when you take the picture and you spread your two fingers on it and the thing zooms in. That is a digital zoom. That's not an optical magnification. And you're going to get a bigger picture at lower resolution doing that. It's best to move closer to your subject, or just shoot the subject the way it is and plan on cropping it later. What you will mislead yourself about what you're actually getting if you do a lot of zooming in, which is why my fly pictures were so bad, because it was it was a small fly and it's a big screen, so I was zooming in. Not a good idea. Don't use the digital zoom, just move closer. If you're in low light, brace yourself. Use a miniature tripod. I know we didn't talk about taking one, but if you did, they make them really compact now. You may have even had it in your camera sleeve or whatever you put your miniature camera in. But a little tripod to hold the camera steady in low light. Another option is to shoot in burst mode and collect several exposures. But the key is don't be moving around if you're shooting in low light, because these are still cameras, and you will get blurry pictures if you do that. Most of these cameras have grid lines, and you can turn them on with a tap of the screen. Turn it on and use it when you're shooting buildings or other geometric structures, so that you can compose the picture properly. Actually use them, because that's what they're there for. Same thing goes for HDR. Now, I don't like HDR, period. And I definitely don't like HDR from the cell phones. I think they're very garish pictures. But if you are fond of that, turn it on when you're taking the picture, rather than try to do too much of that in post. I know that there is an HDR mode on this phone. Again, I'm not exactly sure how you turn it on, but yeah, ask Mike Canfor. He'll tell you. Another thing. This is a key tip. Carry around a lens cloth. This is not a lens cloth. This is a demonstration pretend lens cloth, and wipe the lenses on your camera every single time you take it out of your pocket. Seriously, they need to be shiny and completely see-through, especially if you've got a case that covers them. Clean it off every time, because the first time you don't is when some movie star is going to walk out of Starbucks right in front of you and smile at you, and it's your favorite movie star, and you'll take a picture of them, and there'll be a big piece of omelette covering half of their face, because that's from your breakfast where it fell in your pocket. Clean the lens every time you take the camera out of your pocket if you're using one of these exposed lens cameras. All right, if you're using compact cameras as opposed to the cell phones, don't be afraid to use the macro lens. That actually does give you some true magnification. Not much, but it does allow you to get a little bit closer. So use the macro mode if your camera has it, which you'll know before you go, because you'll have prepared. Not just for detail shots. For example, if you wanted to shoot a handful of coins or something of the local currency, that would be great for the macro mode. But also if you're trying to capture textures, if you want to show what the walls are made of, or the textures of the stone, or whatever it is you're doing, put it in macro mode for that. That's what it's made for. All of these little cameras have a way that you can override the automatic program settings. Learn how to do that. This one has one button on the back. No, I can't remember which one it is. It has one button on the back that you can press, and it will override whatever program mode it's in and let you use the manual settings. But yeah, I did not take this with me, so that's why I haven't studied it. But if your camera has any kind of image stabilization, you will almost never be using this on a tripod or on in a situation where you would want to turn that off. So make sure that your image stabilization is turned on, and keep it on whenever you're using these cameras by hand. A couple of optional extras that we talked about at the beginning: either one of these type of LED lights, or even just a small, flashlight size. This is a nice bright one, works very well. In fact, it's probably too bright, but a tiny LED that you can put on your keychain is invaluable if you're doing anything close up with these little cameras in macro mode. A tiny tripod. I had one out. I don't know what I've done with it. I've got a little tiny one that was on my desk. to demonstrate, but these cameras do have, well, most of them do have a screw-in hole in the bottom. Yeah, they do. A 1/4 inch tripod screw. So excellent. All right, the last part here. When possible, research your location before you go. If you're going to London and you're planning on doing a tour of London or going to the British Museum, do a little bit of research, even if it's just reading some brochures or looking at pictures, and think, what do you want to get a picture of? Because there's nothing worse than being on vacation and going to some place you wanted to go to and then forgetting to take the picture that you wanted. I have always wanted to get a picture of me sitting in the lap of who was it? A famous scientist at the British Museum. There's a statue of him, and I completely forgot to do it while I was there. Yeah, if you just jot them down on a note card, the high points, the things you don't want to forget, that little bit of research will make you a lot more comfortable when you're at these locations. So having a few either iconic spots or just completely weird and off the cuff places, it's lovely to be able to mix together photographs of the iconic shots of Big Ben or whatever, or the Tower of London, along with some obscure shots of little tiny restaurants that you enjoyed, that type of thing, so that you've got a blend. It makes looking at your pictures more interesting. When you're out walking around and just doing the tourist thing, be thinking about photographic opportunities. Use your walking around and looking at things as part of your scouting operation, and carry. Whenever I am out, well, whenever I'm out with a camera, I carry a little pad of these notes that have squares on them, and I will make notes of where I want to return with the camera later on. Shoot themes if you can, if that's your style. If it's signs or colored doors or other architectural features, particular kinds of textiles, or like we talked about earlier, hands at work or faces of workers, whatever it is, by having a theme that kind of threads together through your collection of pictures from a holiday, it really, really makes them more interesting for people to look at. And it also makes the whole experience of editing the thing into a body of work more coherent. If you have some element that, I know we're macro photographers, so our element is usually a whole bunch of pictures of insects. But if you're just out capturing, general photography of your holiday, put something in there that ties it all together. Even if it's not a primary interest of yours, it can be a color. It can be an angle that the shot's taken at, or a particular kind of subject, but it does make them a lot more interesting. Always have your camera ready. Now, if you're going swimming and you have a regular camera, don't take it in the pool with you because they're not waterproof. Other than that, they're small enough that you can put them in your pocket, and you should have them in your pocket if you're out wandering around looking at stuff, because you're going to find things that you want to photograph. It's better to get them while you're there than have to go back. And you'll find some of your best travel photographs ever are the ones that you didn't even think about, that you just grabbed the camera and took the picture because the thing just appeared in front of you. Certainly all of mine are like that. I'm not going to talk anything about editing or putting these pictures into a particular format. But you know the formats. You're going to put these things on your WhatsApp or on Facebook or wherever you post your social media stuff. So it's a good thing to know how to straighten them, how to crop them, how to do all of that easy stuff that you can actually do when you're on the road. You can do all this from your vacation. I don't do that. I bring them back and edit them. But if you are going to be doing that, learn how to do the editing on your phone. And And yeah, that's it. It's I am going to publish that little piece of writing. It's very tongue in cheek. That it just tells a few of the highlights of the trip. But it does include some of the photographs in higher resolution. So I'll put them on the website. I'll do that. I'll do that tomorrow. It's already written. I just I wasn't sure I wanted to publish it, but I think I will. You've seen the worst of the pictures here, so it won't be that bad. Don't forget, on Thursday we're going to pick up where we left off here, and we're going to be a bit more serious and talk about some more weighty matters when it comes to seeing your images and pre-visualizing your compositions. It's great to be back. Thank you everybody who has sent a message, and yeah, I'm very grateful to you. For those of you I bumped into while I was over in the UK, that was a particularly nice treat. Thank you, Ian, for coming by. And yeah, so I'm glad to be home, glad to be back at work. Let me know what you want me to be doing for the next few weeks, and I'll get cracking on getting it done. Otherwise, I'll see you on Thursday, or Friday, or Saturday, or all three. Thanks for coming. Hit the like button if you haven't, and there was anything you liked. If you're still here, you either fell asleep or you liked something. So that's good, and I'll see you later in the week. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry I didn't get to my messages today. I am working on a new way to do that as we go. I just haven't figured it out yet completely. Take care, stay safe, and be well. I'll see you on Thursday.